Today I am joined by Ian Hartley. Hi, Ian.
Hi, Kirsty.
So Ian is currently the Chief Operating Officer at Drummond Miller, LLP, which is a medium-sized law firm operating across the Central Belt. And Ian has a varied career in finance, largely at strategic level. And I'm delighted to have this chat with you today. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
I thought maybe we'd kick off with, do you want to just let me know how the current COVID-19 crisis has been affecting you?
Affecting me, I think the biggest impact for me is the reduced contact. So I think that the way that I operate is very much about meeting people, talking to people, and actually getting more out of people. And when you're kind of stuck, isolated, then actually that becomes more difficult. I think the normal statistic is most communication is 90% non-verbal, and that suddenly gives you a real challenge in terms of how you communicate with people, and that's been the biggest difficulty for me.
So do you think we will all be going back to offices, or do you think that we'll be staying at home?
No, I think there's many people who found that working from home is much easier than they thought. If you would have said to me 12 months ago you'll be working from home, I would have thought you were mad. But actually, I've found working from home really easy. I've found I enjoy the commute much more than I used to. I use the time that I would have been commuting to exercise, and that's great. The only bit I miss, I guess, is for me the commute home was also part of the unwinding, and so that's been a bit of a challenge. But no, I genuinely expect that the new world will be much different. Schroders announcing at the weekend that they're going to be telling people that they can work from home permanently. I think that's going to be the start of many different firms doing that. I think cities are going to be faced with a lot of vacant commercial property, and I think that will be a challenge.
But as you say, the challenge, I guess, with that is the social element.
Yeah, and I think that for me is absolutely massive. I think just the kind of networking and the chat that you get around water coolers are at the start of meetings, and actually, we have open plan offices, and you can see the stress building up on someone, and I think it's really you get someone has a bad phone call, or and they put the phone down, and then they have a turn to you, and they have a bit of a rant, and then and they feel better for it, and you just don't have that. I'm very fortunate. I use my HR manager, Sam Lee. I often you have a mad phone call. I pick up the phone to her. She does the same with me, and you have that's just insane. Yeah, it is. Thanks very much, indeed. And it's that ability to feel grounded that I think people will miss.
I think that I could maybe do a little series on that another day with that topic alone, Ian, about if we're going to be working a bit more from home, but we're missing out on the reading the body language, building the relationships. How do we tackle that, essentially?
Yeah. And networking as meeting someone and having a coffee, and just it's having conversations that are outside the specific conversation, because for me it's the thinking outside the box. It's dead easy to think about what we're doing, but actually you go along to networking events, and for me I always use them as a kind of strategic, how do I think outside of just the normal day-to-day thing, and that kind of gives you ideas as to where else to go. And if you lose that contact, do you lose the ability to think more widely and challenge more widely what you're doing in the practices you develop?
Well, I think a bit further down the line, you and I are going to have to do another recording when it's perhaps when the world's slightly more balanced, where, you know, maybe we're not all back in the office completely, but we're not all at home completely, and there's maybe a bit more of a balance. And then I'll be picking your brains on tips of what that balance looks like.
Sounds a good idea.
There's the heads up. So
Yeah.
what's sort of keeping you awake at the moment, or been largely on your mind at this time?
I think for me, it's where are we going to go more as an economy than anything, because I think, you know, there are events in history which change the shape and the landscape, and I think that this is one that's changed us more than any that I can remember in my lifetime. And I think it's what will that look like? Because I think you know, the furlough scheme's been an absolute godsend. I think that's allowed businesses that otherwise back in March might have said, you know, we just need to cut jobs and you know, how do I cut costs and all of those kind of things. And I think what that's allowed is it's allowed people to have a bit of time to look at that. But when you consider that the hospitality sector has been impacted so greatly, and you kind of struggle to see that coming back. I think that how we spend our money and where we spend our money is going to be different, and it's what that'll look like. One of the areas that our business has been impacted most in has been property. So for a period of time, the estate agency and lettings businesses just couldn't operate. We weren't allowed out of homes. You're not allowed to be in confined spaces with people, all that kind of stuff. And that started to come back. And what happened was there was a bit of a bubble. All these people have been stuck. But going forward, I think that the challenge there will be if you've got a lot of people out of work, you've got reduced ability to borrow, and what will the banks be? Because the banks, in general, have often been pretty poor at supporting when people have gone and need to borrow money. And I just think that potentially will create a level of uncertainty that, you know, how are we going to deal? And I think that the worry is that, for me, that the whole world goes into a bit of what's going to happen? Tell you what, I won't make any decision, and, you know, I'll hold back, and that will impact the economy. Because I think what we've seen, particularly in England, them trying to open up different sectors of the economy, and then you suddenly get another spike in this disease, and it's all horrible. I've been trying to, as you know, Kirsty, I like to travel a little, and we've been trying to find somewhere to go. And, you know, you think, well, can't go long haul, so hey, how about a pop down to France? And you're just about to press book when, you know, you've got it. You can't even go there. So I think that the level of uncertainty is the thing that keeps me awake.
Mm-hmm. And how does that translate into, from a work perspective, how are you dealing with that uncertainty?
I think as I say, there are certain parts of what we do that has been more impacted than others. I think in general, the early part of lockdown, we actually had bizarrely a bit of an increase in income. Litigation firms had suddenly worked out that actually, if they settled all these cases that they've been keeping going for some time, then they'll all be able to take fees. So we had a massive spike in lots of these things. So from that point of view, there's been a bit of a spike in parts of the business. But I think for us, it's just what will the future revenue streams look like? Mm. And, you know, I think that there's the 5 areas that we deal with in immigration, litigation, property, private client, and family. You know, those things are all going to carry on going forward. The question is, you know, to what level? You know, I mean, I keep I keep thinking, you look at family, for example. You kind of expect it being stuck in the same room as someone for a bit of time. You may have the odd relationship problem that may come forward. We've got a private client, people are still dying, need powers of attorney. All of those things will continue. The question is at what level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're doing your best to kind of, I guess, just predict and navigate that uncertainty. And
I think that the key to it is we come at it from a strong financial base, and therefore, we're not looking at knee-jerk reactions. What we've got is, you can plan into something, and you can look at where we're going. I think we've probably condensed 18 months future development into 3 or 4 months, because we've been forced to, as lots of businesses have, we've been forced to do what we need to do, and actually we're in a really strong position to take it forward. But actually we're doing it we're moving the business forward with definitive decisions about how we want to do it, rather than drifting into it. And that will make us a stronger business going forward.
You're not the first person as well that said to me about taking a plan that was, say, 18 months long, and managing to achieve that, or just refocus it to achieve a lot within a much shorter space of time. And I wonder if that's going to be one of the learns that comes out of this period for people, in terms of how much you can achieve in a short space of time if you, I guess, get rid of the noise around about.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me, it's I've always kind of found there's always a way of doing something. You can always find you can always find a solution to something, and it might mean thinking outside the box. It might mean doing something different, but I think this has proved that actually no holds barred, that you really can achieve an awful lot. Like I say, if you would have said to me 12 months ago that as a firm we would have 40 fee earners spread across, working from home, I thought you were mad. And yet, actually, it's working really, really well.
Mm-hmm. So what's been your biggest learn over this period?
I think we've learned a lot about our people. We have, you and I have spoke before, culture is important within all organisations. You guys have got a strong culture. We've got a good culture. And I think we've learned a lot about people. We've learned a lot about their strengths. We've learned some of the weaknesses. And I think it's at the heart of what we do. It's all about people. And I think we've learned that actually the time and effort that we've invested in our people over the last 18 months, 2 years, has actually started to pay dividends, because we've had better structures to deal with people. We've had all the underlying people issues, if you like, fixed and sorted. So actually, when you get into to this, actually dealing with the people becomes much easier. And I think we've learned a lot about our people. As I say, some good, mainly good.
So all that time and energy invested in people and cultures is worth it in a time like just
I think it's always worth it. You know that, Kirsty. It's always worth investing time in people. It's always worth working on your culture and making sure that that actually the people that you've got are aligned with the culture that preaching to the converted. I know that, but it's that important bit of making sure that that the organisation has the right approach to its people and the right strategies and all of that kind of stuff. That's what always pays dividends. And when you're in a situation like this, it's more important than ever.
Mm-hmm. So if I was to ask you to grab your crystal ball for me, Ian, you're going to let us know what the world's going to look like, when I've been saying to people when we come out of this, but what does that really mean? So really, I think what I'm asking is maybe in, 12, 24 months time, what's it going to look like?
I think that it's going to look more like this than actually it looked before. I'm yet to speak to anyone who's desperate to get back to, jumping on a train at 7:40 that's full of people and going into to one of the big cities and all of that kind of stuff. I think there's lots of likes from what we've done. I think you find, as I said with Schroders, you're finding businesses that are saying, hey, a lot of the time, our two biggest costs are people and offices. And, if I can spend more on my people and less on my offices, but actually keep my income the same, that's better for everyone, as long as we can check in. So what do I think the future's going to look like? I think the future's going to look like more people working remotely, more people spending time with the families, not on trains and in cars. I think I saw something earlier that was suggesting there'd be more people travelling by car. I think there's going to be more people working from home where you can. Why wouldn't you? And I think that's important. We need to make sure that we cover the elements of the community that don't have the ability or can't work electronically, and I think that's a generational thing that will move on. But the future really is more of this. It's more conversations like this, and I think that there are in general that's a good thing. There is the social aspect of it. Mm-hmm. We've got to find a solution to that. That's the one thing that I do worry that we haven't got a solution. Going for a coffee and having a chat and just making sure, if you like, checking in with someone in a way that this makes it more difficult to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So less commuting, but the solution for that social side is a bit of your concern.
That's something we've got to find a way. And, and I think we will. From a personal point of view, we connect with some friends, relatives now on a weekly basis by Zoom, and I consume far too much wine. But apart from that, they're really good conversations, and you've got you're building relationships that you might not have got round to making that phone call in a busier time. So there's been positives, and that's great. But we have to get the social element back into our work life that I think is missing so far.
Mm-hmm. So what words of wisdom or positivity would you like to leave us with today?
Oh, good grief. I think that there's a lot of people often talk about change management, and I think management has always been about nothing's ever stood still. People have always talked about oh well, we need to change this or we need to change that, but actually none of that has ever stood still. So I think what this has done for me is it said, look at we've changed what we've done, and 18-month plans happened in 3 or 4 months. And I think what I go back to, there's always a way, there's always a solution. It's about thinking outside the box. It's not just saying that what we have to continue to do what we do. Challenge it. We have to continually challenge each other and how we operate and how we do things. And we can all continue to improve.
I love it. And I hope people listening are now thinking, when did I last challenge myself? Who am I challenging? What could I improve on? That's a great takeaway to to leave us with?
I think that the thing I've always loved, Kirsty, is every day, how can I do something better than I did it the day before? And, and actually, if I'm just going to do what I did the day before, I'll be bored. So, the challenge for me is part of my enjoyment. Why I enjoy doing what I do.
Brilliant. Well, you've certainly got me thinking. So thank you, Ian. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
You're welcome. Thanks, Kirsty.
Cheers.